Up is on, is that right?
Yeah, it should be
Up
on
is
now.
on. Okay. All right, so welcome to our annual Christmas workshop. We're going to begin with an opening prayer. So I invite you to close your eyes and become still. And remember the truth that there is one source of healing, one source of health. God is our source, the only source. And as we make contact with the silence, that healing force comes through us, renewing, restoring, regenerating, whatever it is that needs to be healed. And so for a few moments in the silence, let us rest in that awareness that we are provided for in every way in the silence. And as we begin to return our attention to this time and this place, we give thanks that the Creator has provided for our every need. And as we begin to open our eyes and return more fully to this time and this place, we come back refreshed, renewed, restored. And for that we do give thanks in the name through the power of the Christ that lives within us all. Amen. You're probably wondering what the water is for. And I hope that you will adopt this habit of putting a drop of water, a drop of oil in water, because it does amazing things. Just one little drop of oil will raise the frequency of the water that you drink. It's one simple thing that we can do to avoid the toxicity that is in our environment, that is in our food, that is in our water, that is in our medicines. That just if you drink water, and you know that in a physical sense, dehydration and inflammation are the two physical causes of most disease. There's a wonderful book called The Body's Many Cries for Water by a doctor. This was written, and he had been a political prisoner in Iran, and he was given no medicines at all to treat these people. And he was amazed that he just gave them water. And that cured most of them. So water, I've heard people tell me they don't like water. Well, start liking it. Because your body is like 90% water. All right. And the cells are like batteries. Batteries don't run without water. But you can do a lot even with water, just with 1 drop of oil. So nobody leaves. No. You don't have to drink it all right now, but I just wanted to have it available so that you can see the difference. But I wanted to tell you my purposes for offering this workshop. And one is to remind ourselves of a truth that we affirm in unity. That is, God is the source of our health. Charles Fillmore says that health is bringing forth the Christ presence that is within us. It's not about disease, although that gets taken care of, but health in Jesus Christ heals. He writes, health is wholeness, that wholeness of the Christ coming forth into expression. So by that standard, most of us are subnormal or unhealthy, I guess you could say. Okay, that's one purpose. And then the second is to remind ourselves of a second truth, which is that the Creator has provided for our every need. And so it's an opportunity to explore, what limits do I put on health? What limits do I put on abundance? No. And then acknowledge those limits and then affirm the truth. And see. And just see for yourself. And then third, I want to acquaint you with the most, I was going to say ancient, but ancient isn't even the word. It's timeless medicine. There is no ancient culture which did not use these oils, and you can't pinpoint and say, oh, it was discovered here or it was discovered there. It was discovered all over the world, as far back as we know. And why is that? Because if you read the creation story, and you read that on the 6th day, man was created in the image likeness of God, then everything that would be needed to fulfill God's desire, infinite intelligence, to express in and through a limited biological form, everything was provided. And so on the 3rd day of creation, the plants and the trees were spoken into creation. And that's what these oils are. They are the distilled essence or lifeblood of a tree or a plant. And furthermore, Jesus taught his disciples to anoint. To anoint means to literally rub or smear with oil. Okay. Who was anointed? Well, primarily kings, prophets, priests, and the priests, as you may know, were the ones who did the healing. They were the ones who were in charge of mixing up the blends in the temple. They were the ones who made sure that frankincense was going 24 hours a day. Why? Because altars were butcher blocks. They were butchering animals, and the smell and the bacteria, and this takes care of everything. Now, what is so interesting to me is that the oils were used before people started, making teas out of the leaves and like that. So distillation is not an easy process. This was a revealed knowledge in every culture. So we can begin to trust that they knew what they were doing in those days. The oils were also used for other purposes: hospitality, healing in a relative sense. That is, you couldn't mix up the blends. That was the role of the priests. Okay. But these oils, people would walk, I don't know how many miles in dusty paths, and they would have their feet washed and get oil on their feet. Why is that important? Because, and you have one of these in your folder, if you look at the foot, you see that on the feet, every single point of your body, the oil receives that. I mean, you receive that to all the organs in your body that those points represent. So that is my hope, that you keep in mind these purposes as we go along. Now, the Bible is not a manual for essential oils. It was so permeating the culture that they did not need to explain. It's like you wouldn't write a book talking about how you used aspirin or something, but you get little secrets by, for instance, and here's where we're going to begin. Why did the wise men bring gold, frankincense, and myrrh? Anybody have any ideas?
They were obviously as rare and as expensive as the gold was.
That's right. They were for royalty. And it's interesting that this story about the wise men only appears in the Gospel of Matthew. Yeah. However, even before Jesus, if you read in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 6, the coming of the Messiah, one of the signs was that camels would arrive with gold and frankincense, no myrrh. So I want you to think about, and I'll end up telling you, but I just want you to think about why these three gifts. These are not symbolic gifts, although they are, but they're not. Ever since one of my teachers in school said, "Who would bring a baby? Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Well, I know I didn't get any for sure, but they were obviously what is needed to bring forth the Christ. We'll talk more about it as we go along. But first, I want to tell you how and why they heal. First of all, these molecules in oil are tiny, tiny molecules. This is an unimaginable number. But in one drop of oil, like I just put in everybody's cup of water, there are 40 billion trillion molecules. It's an unimaginable number, right? We only have 100 trillion cells in our bodies, which means that every cell from one drop of oil could receive 40,000 molecules of that oil. This is potent. All right. The function of these oils is to bring oxygen, nutrients into the cell, and to remove the waste from the cell. Well, also heal wounds. Also strengthen your immune system. Okay. And the uncanny thing is that they function in the same way in us as they do in the plants, because the chemistry is the same chemistry that is human blood. All right? And so what does it do for us? It takes oxygen into the cells. It removes whatever is wrong information in the DNA or any kind of residue from bad substances that we've taken in. It strengthens our immune system, and it heals wounds. All those things. Same in plants, same in us. So let's start with, we can start with talking about the unusual chemistry. The chemistry of these oils contains internal compounds that do three things. Every one of the biblical oils contains three aspects that are needed for healing. And one is a connection to the source. All right? There are oils that are very high in one of the compounds. I never ask you to remember these names. They're phenylpropanoids. They're all part of the terpene family. If you've had any chemistry classes, you will know that. Phenylpropanide, those oils that are high in that, cleanse the receptor sites. There are hundreds of them on the wall of the cell. And because in most of us, those receptor sites are clogged, and so the nutrients that we do take in do not get assimilated or incorporated into our being. So step one, isn't this the first step in healing, is to be open and receptive to God's healing life. We affirm this in Unity all the time, all right? On Sundays. I am open and receptive to God's healing life. All right. Second compound that we find are called sesquiterpenes. Sesquiterpenes. Those are the molecules, those are the compounds that serve to delete. They can enter right into the cell wall. All these tiny, tiny molecules just penetrate in through the cell wall. They're always fragrant. And delete the wrong information. What's an idea of wrong information that has gotten in there?
That we could be sick.
Oh, okay, that there's no incurable disease. All right, that's good. What else?
Lack.
Yeah, that there is a lack. That how about I'm not worthy, right?
Yeah.
That's a big one. And so the reason that this is important is that these ancient people knew that unprocessed emotions are at the root of disease. Unprocessed emotions. And a lot of us, most people, I would say, have memories from childhood that were never processed because we did not know what to do with them. And so, yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, so on an elemental level, these serve as affirmations and denials?
Yes. Haven't got to the affirmation part yet.
With the
But what
denial.
happens are these molecules penetrate the cell wall. They're lipid soluble. Okay, penetrate the cell wall, get in there, and delete the wrong information, and then the monoterpenes restore, that's the third element, the monoterpenes restore the normal functioning of the cell. Receptivity, denial, and affirmation. Charles Fillmore says these are the three elements of healing, and it is literally true. This is why Jesus taught the disciples to anoint. Mark 1:15, I believe it is, or maybe I had it written down, and I don't have it in front of me. But anyway, in Mark, no, that's something else, but it's in Mark, about the 3rd, 4th chapter. It says Jesus taught the disciples to anoint, and many were healed. Well, the disciples were not at the level of Jesus where they could say, pick up your bed and walk, right? And so they used the oils. That was the accepted modality of healing. Nobody questioned it. Revealed directly from God. It's our ordained medicine. So those are the three chemical elements. There's a frequency here. Frequency, electrical frequency. So what happens when you have, let's say that you're having a bad day, and you're having a mood that is, depressed, let's say. Well, these oils have a high frequency and they lift you. It's associated with when you make contact in the silence of your being, this flash of energy comes forth, and it's always associated with joy. Best antidote for depression that you could have. Okay. All right. And the real important thing is this, that these oils, or let's say our brain is so wired that our sense of smell goes directly into the limbic region of the brain. That means it bypasses all the intellectual stuff. Have you ever had an experience where you smelled something and it triggered a memory? Grandma's apple pie, or baking bread, or if there was someplace that was unpleasant to you where you worked or lived and you smelled something associated with it, the memory comes back. And that's how the memories get released. Okay. We have a storage and filing system in the limbic region of the brain. And so when you inhale the fragrance, it goes directly to that filing system, and that says, oh, okay, that emotion got logged into your liver. I'm just making this up, but some part of your body, it has to get stored. And the only physical way that you can get rid of this is through the sense of smell. The other senses are wired into the cortex. Okay. Where we analyze and we doubt and all those things that we're very familiar with. Okay. So, consequently, our frequency, because we are bogged down with a lot of weight. When, thought that was the doorbell, that when we inhale these oils, that our vibration is lifted and then the heaviness goes away. You have a little bookmark. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought you did. Okay. You have a little bookmark, and your bookmark looks like this. This is part of the Christmas story. This is about the wise men. I should say that there is another way to release memories, and that is in the silence of your being. Meditation is the primary way. But these oils were applied with prayer, but they actually are prayer. So they're both symbolic and actual, energetic forms of prayer. Okay. Why haven't we used them? Why don't we use them today? Well, because we have gotten away from the notion that healing comes from church. All right? It used to be, if you had something, you'd go to the priest in the temple, and if it was leprosy, well, they had remedy for leprosy. If it was something else, and you could not go back into society until the healing took place. We, after about 300 years after Jesus was had ascended, and then people forgot about them, and the rise of science took over, and we no longer had a sense of connection to the church, more a sense of connection to outer authorities. Okay, and it remains that way today. These were not alternatives, these were primary. Okay, so here's your bookmark, and this is the part of the story, my favorite part of the Christmas story, because it's about the wise men. So when they saw the star, remember that right before this, the wise men went to Jerusalem, and they discovered that Herod was still in charge there, and that Herod didn't actually know. He had to go consult somebody to find out where the Christ was, and they And he said, so you go find out. You go to where this is taking place and come back and tell me so I can come and worship as well. Okay, who knows what Herod represents in this Christmas story?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's part of something called the ego, right? Yes, the ego, the intellect, the doubts. Absolutely. All right. And so they leave Jerusalem. They follow the star. And here's the part that I wanted to read. When they saw the star, which was over where Jesus was in Bethlehem, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. Joy, here again, we have that sense of joy. And when they were come into the house equals consciousness. When you make contact with that source, again, that energy is released and you feel joy. Always. I think I put it in your folders, but if I didn't, I have a number of quotes from the Fillmores and other places about that sense of joy that always comes when you contact the Christ within yourself. Okay. They saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasure, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And so, why do you think those gifts were given?
To bring forth the Christ.
To bring forth the Christ.
I like that.
You see, the Creator knew we would have challenges doing this. All right? And so we needed something that would support us in these times of challenge. And so these are all aspects of consciousness, but as I said, they were not at that level. The disciples weren't, and so they needed this in the meantime. Okay, gold. All right, let's talk about gold. You have gold in your, and by the way, here's your diagram. So if you want to see what happens when you put a drop of oil on your hands or on your feet, and if you and I also have ears because there's lots of these little chakras where you can see. You put a drop of oil there and it affects a particular aspect of your mind or body. Now there should
I don't have a foot.
So
it's on the other side.
Thank you. Look at both sides of the
Okay, now oils in the life of Jesus. There's a sheet there called Oils in the Life of Jesus. And then we're going to start with gold. So let's talk about gold. One thing I should tell you is that oils were called liquid gold. Liquid gold. They were more precious than the metal gold, and metal gold was not used for currency. Metal gold was used for making crowns. All right. And the crown, which you put on the crown of your head, made, they thought, the connection with the Creator. They wanted their kings to rule with wisdom. Now, in about, I think it was 1997, some archaeologist was digging around and in Getty found a part of a temple, and on the floor of the temple was a warning saying that whoever divulged this, how they processed this oil, some dire consequence. If I find it, I'll read it to you. So it is now believed that there were 3 oils rather than gold, but gold works metaphysically as well. What are the properties of gold?
Purity.
Yes. Okay. And what else?
It conducts electricity.
Doesn't rust.
Very well.
It doesn't rust. It doesn't oxidize. It doesn't, yes. And that's part of the purity of it. It does not get contaminated. Just like that place at the center of your being. Okay? And so that's how we support that sense of connection. And I'm going to pass around. I'm going to pass joy in one direction, and this is considered liquid gold, and here's how you do it. Balsam fir. This is believed to be the first oil mentioned in Genesis. You remember when Joseph was beaten up and sold into slavery, and there was a camel caravan coming by, and they were carrying the balm of Gilead. Well, and Getty is in Gilead. So take a drop or 2, and you can stir it if you want. Rub your hands together and smell. Inhale that fragrance. Also, you have in your stocking, and if you need more of these little sticks, there are these 2 red lines, and if you put a drop or 2 on there, it lasts. Okay, and so you can take it home with you, or carry it at least with you for the rest of the day. One time I did that for the congregation on a Sunday, and somebody said it lasted for a week. They must have poured a lot on. But it keeps it in between the red lines. It preserves it. Okay, more about gold. Gold is infinitely almost malleable. You can pound it, and it's thin, and you can, in an inch, you can have about 350,000 very, very thin sheets of gold. 1 troy ounce of gold can be, it's ductile. Take 1 troy ounce of gold and it will stretch for 75 miles. Okay, so what does this have to do with the Christ? Infinitely flexible, infinitely ductile. It's absolutely not weighed down by anything. And Bethlehem. Why was Jesus born in Bethlehem? Why? What's Bethlehem?
House of bread.
House of bread, which means substance, and significantly, it is a city without walls. Okay? No walls, no boundaries. Whereas Jerusalem, the place of peace, was walled. It was a walled city. Okay, so, also, I have some pictures here. On the table of elements, there's a symbol for gold. Anybody know what that is?
AG?
No, it's AU.
AU.
AU. And AU means shining dawn. And if you look at these holy pictures here, you will see that gold is considered to be the aura of a person who is in the consciousness of the Christ. So, pass this along. Here's a real bright one here. So I have this collection of holy pictures here. Here.
That's why in the Catholic tradition that the tabernacle and the ciborium that hold the host is always gold.
All the bowls and the laver and candlesticks and all that are gold. Okay, so you can see that indicates that they're holy people, that they're really in high consciousness.
Eleanor, did you say that all these ingredients are in gold? There is not just a gold?
What I'm saying is that the oil, I'm going to pass around another, here's Egyptian gold.
Egyptian gold.
That the oil performs the functions that gold has. Most people have assumed, you see, most scholars have assumed that gold was gold, metal.
Right.
And it was only the discovery of this distillery in Gilead with the warning on the floor, because it was highly prized. Now in Getty, again, the metaphysics is so perfect. And Getty was the mound of witness. Okay, mound of witness, high place of consciousness where you can witness everything. Okay.
So we can't distill gold because it's a metal.
You
Well, the
cannot
oil
distill
or-
gold, but you can think of it as metal because of the crown. So when the crown chakra and is connected to the metal crown, they believed it connected the king to the source of wisdom. So the oils, that is, a primary function of the oils. Okay, that's gold.
Thank you.
And on your sheet, it's the color of substance. Charles Fillmore. Charles Fillmore had this notion and thought that he wanted to see substance, and he kept thinking, I want to see substance, and nothing happened. But then he realized that there were these little sort of snowflakey things that were gold, and that he was seeing substance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You mean we know it's floaties? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Okay. Wow, and its volume, I have here, density 19 times more than the water of the same volume at 68 degrees. Okay, so that's why you compound it so thin. Okay. So the prediction of the Messiah, gold and frankincense.
Eleanor, some years ago, the light was I saw a light, and I looked up, I thought it was coming through the window. We were sitting to the left, sort of a little bit down front, and I wondered where the light was coming from, so it wasn't coming through the window. And then I looked, It was very intense, and I could see feet at the bottom of it.
Uh-huh.
But they were crossed, and then it was Christ on the cross, and his head was down, and the crown of thorns was just radiant. It was going all over.
Okay.
And I didn't even.
That is the nature
Yeah,
of
and it
an
was
enlightened
gold.
consciousness.
Yeah, it was just.
You have a
radiant gold.
sheet called balsam fir, which is the oil that, did it get around?
Each here.
Okay. And I was always looking for biblical references. And so I've listed the biblical references, but the metaphysics is important. The high place in consciousness, and this speaks to your story, where spirit discerns and witnesses what is true and to all man's thought and acts, that an adjustment may be made throughout the body. If we let our high ideals and standards become subject to error reasonings, our inner Gilead works against our life and health. Okay, this is in Hosea 6:8. Also, the Zohar, and I only heard about the Zohar from Greg, but I found this as I was looking through the Zohar. And it says, since joy prevails above, right, if the priest merits it, here too below. At that time, the goodwill of light is manifested and scented with the fragrance of the mountains of the pure supernal balsam, which fragrance spreads throughout the place. It enters the two nostrils of the priest, and the heart is satisfied. Here we have this joy element coming up again. Then there is silence, with no fault to be found. The priest opens his mouth in prayer willingly, and with joy utters his prayer. That was a real find for me. So you can see that the whole premise of holistic healing is that we're already whole, and that we simply need to remove the blocks to that truth. Right? It's a 180-degree turnaround in how we approach health. All right. Now let's go to frankincense. And let's see here. Start it this way this time. So here we have frankincense. And for those who've been coming on Wednesday nights, you've already had a whiff of frankincense, but can't have too much frankincense. All right. So frankincense was considered the holiest oil of ancient times. It was considered a cure-all from head to toe. Frankincense was considered a cure-all. Frankincense was required to be burning in the temple 24 hours a day. This was as an incense. Okay? They had both the liquid and the, what they called fumigating. They fumigate the temple with frankincense. And so it was part of the recipe that was given to Moses in Exodus 24. Exodus 24? 30. There's two recipes. One is 30:24 and the other is 30:34. And frankincense is the chief one. in the holy anointing incense. And it was believed to enhance the rituals for communication with the Creator, connection to the source. And Leviticus, it was the cereal offering. And there was a frankincense trail. Somewhere there's a map here. So maybe your geography is good and you don't need to see it on a map. But there was a frankincense trail. Because there was only one place where frankincense grew. And it was at the tip of the Arabian Peninsula. There was a little oasis there, and the Nabatean tribe cultivated the frankincense, and it was so sacred, no one dared to steal it. And here's something else interesting about frankincense, and that is that it takes the tree 40 years to mature to the point where you can harvest it. What's 40?
Completion.
As long as it takes for it to be foursquare. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's part of it. And then when it's 40 years old, then you can scrape the bark and the resin appears. Here's some frankincense resin, if you would like to see. This is something you would put in a little dish and burn it, and like incense. And this trail went from the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, which is the country of Oman today, and once they had harvested, only 3 times per season could you scrape the bark of the tree and get this resin before you damage the tree. So they would then load it onto camels, and they went over 2,000 miles in the desert to get it to Petra, which was a city in today Jordan. And then it went to Gaza and the other direction, depending on where it would go. So they both distilled it and they sent the resin to be distributed. And people always wondered, how can you go for 2,500 miles or so through this desert without water? You have camels and you have the camel drivers. It was not discovered until World War II, when they discovered there were underground cisterns, and nobody knew about them. Okay. There are lots of stories. Aaron stopped a plague. This is in Numbers 16:46. And by the way, do pay attention, you metaphysicians, to the numbers. I won't put anybody on the spot, but we can look at the number 1646, and you'll know the whole story of what happened there. You can look at the Christmas story, chapter 2, verses 1 through 12, and know the whole story if you know how to read numbers metaphysically. Okay.
Chapter 2, what'd you say?
It's on your little bookmark.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the whole thing is chapter 2, verses 1 through 12.
Okay.
And it means something. I'll ask you again in a while. But Aaron stopping the plague, 1646. Amazing. Okay. Today it's grown in Somalia. It's in Hebrew lavona. which means from tree resin. So it's the distilled essence of that which I passed around for you to see. Okay, so frankincense. And as some of you know, Reverend Greg challenged me about 7 years or 8 years ago, saying, see if you can find the correlation between the 12 powers. And so I did. It took me 1.5 years to be sure that it was accurate. And frankincense represents faith. Okay. And I won't go into all the reasons why, because most of the people here have taken the class. But I assure you there are reasons for it. Okay, so frankincense is very high in those two families of sesquiterpenes and monoterpenes, meaning meaning that it's very high in deleting the wrong information that has gotten into the cells and restoring the cells to normal functioning. Okay, very high in those two, but also has the element of cleansing the receptor sites. Okay. All right, you have a sheet on myrrh. Did the frankincense got all the way around? Okay.
Does the rosin release oil, or is it just the essence of oil?
You have to distill it. You have to distill it. That's how you get the essence. They're called essential oils because they're essential to the life of the plant. And by analogy, our blood is the carrier of these oils. And the receptor sites have to be cleansed in order for the nutrients to get through.
So if you're burning the incense,
Incense, you see, it has there are
Okay.
two ways. You can inhale it,
yes.
and that goes directly into the limbic region of the brain. Or, through inhaling it, it gets into the bloodstream via the lungs.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Myrrh. Myrrh is viscous, so it might be hard to shake a drop, but the prophecy doesn't mention myrrh. Does anybody know what myrrh represents metaphysically? And then we'll go from there. And by the way, frankincense represents transmutation. Okay. Charles Fillmore knew that frankincense had that capacity to transmute consciousness by virtue of its chemistry and its frequency. Myrrh, what does myrrh represent? Who knows? No. Eternal life.
Eternal what?
Life. Myrrh in the 12 powers represents the faculty of life. Okay. Now, you have a sheet called Oils in the Life of Jesus. And what you notice is where it says birth, starting with birth, going through anointing in preparation for burial, in the Garden of Gethsemane, and at the crucifixion, and at the burial, myrrh was present at all of these occasions. Myrrh is what is called a fixing oil, And that means that whatever you put with it enhanced its intensity, its potency, and its longevity. Okay. So, looking at the birth, knowing that the faculty of life is what brings everything together into visibility, we can see that myrrh, when every aspect brings forth the Christ, that what is that? It's eternal life. Why was it present at the birth? Well, Mary knew what to do with it. It was antibacterial. It was for infection. All right. The baby's navel. All right. It's used today in childbirth and labor and pregnancy for that very reason. Heals scars. If you have stretch marks, it's good for that. So, frankincense for the baby king, and myrrh for eternal life of the king. Then you go down to the anointing woman. Now, this is found in all 4 Gospels. Okay. And I thought I had put one of these. Let's see. So much stuff here. So I'll let you can just write down the references, and then if I find this, I will tell you about it. So, in all 4 Gospels, a woman comes to Jesus and anoints him with oil. And that oil is spikenard and myrrh. Okay, spikenard and myrrh. I'll pass around spikenard so you can get a sense. Not everybody likes spikenard, but I happen to like it. Purple. Where is it? Purple. Do you see it? Thank you. Okay. Yes, thanks. Okay, spikenard and myrrh. What was the purpose of this? The details of the story are different. For instance, in Matthew and Mark, she comes and anoints his head. So what is she doing? She's putting oil on his head. Right? Authority, giving him the authority of the Christ. The other 2, Luke and John, they anoint Jesus' feet. Understanding of spiritual law, right? So that's different. It happens at different times. In Luke, however, Luke is unique in that he is having dinner with Simon the leper. Simon the leper, who has not treated him as an honored guest. He had not washed Jesus' feet or anointed his honored guest with oil. And along comes this woman. She walks right into the dinner party here. And you remember, they didn't sit at tables. They lounged. They lounged. And so she had access to Jesus' feet. And she anointed his feet, and the amount of spikenard and myrrh that she used would have been the equivalent of $2,000 worth of oil. and she wiped she wiped the feet with her hair. Yeah.
If it was Simon the leper,
Uh-huh.
what was he doing wandering around touching anybody?
That's a good question. You have to be metaphysical in order to make sense of some of these things. Simon the leper was a Pharisee.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And he had a thought. He said, if Jesus knew who that woman was, he would not have allowed her to do that. And before, Jesus did not hear him because he didn't say it out loud, but Jesus answered him and said, Simon, let me tell you a parable. He said, what if there were two people, one who had sinned greatly and one who had sinned a little bit? Who would be the more grateful if their sins were forgiven?
Yeah.
And Simon says, well, of course, the one who had more sins. And that's when he says, Simon, you did not treat me as an honored guest. You did not wash my feet. You did not anoint my feet. And this woman, she had given everything. First of all, it's women representing our feeling nature, our intuition, who sensed the truth that Jesus was going to need this, because the disciples didn't, they heard it for 3 years, but they didn't believe he was going to be actually crucified and resurrected, or it was just a concept, right? And so here's this woman. It's our intuition that knows the appropriate thing to do in a given situation. It's not about men and women, although many women have that capacity active. Men also have an intuitive nature which senses the right thing to do. So that's what she did. In the Gospel of John, she has a name, Mary of Bethany. And she anoints Jesus' feet. Now, she's the one who was the sister of Martha and Lazarus, and she used to sit at the feet of Jesus because she was interested in studying. And the disciples complained, and they said, we shouldn't be wasting this oil. We should be selling it to the poor, give the money to the poor. You see, that's the difference between human thinking, which considers itself so practical, and intuitive thinking. And Jesus said, the poor you will always have with you, but I will not be with you much longer. Okay? Anyway, you can read all of them, all of the versions if you want to. I have printed out the Matthew-Mark version as contrasted with John, which is mainly, I had it in, here it is, okay. I just have so many papers, sorry. Here's something else that I wanted to mention to you. When we were talking about frequency, I just wanted to let you know the frequency. Bruce Tanio devised a machine where you could measure the frequency of anything. You can measure the frequency of any part of your body. You can measure the frequency of food. You can measure the frequency of pretty much everything. And so here's what turns out to be that the human body, which is in good health, 62 to 68 megahertz. Okay. if it goes down to 58, you're vulnerable to cold symptoms. Another point, and you're vulnerable to the flu. Okay? And it keeps going down, disease by disease. 42, you're open to cancer. All right? So it's frequency that is getting lower and lower. Okay. I just wanted to, and then by contrast, so oils have very high frequency. 320 is the highest. It's the highest frequency of any physical substance on the planet. Remember, it's little droplets of God light that are in these oils. And there's a whole list of foods here. Processed and canned foods, 0 frequency. Fresh herbs is the highest of the foods. And that's 26. Okay, dried herbs, 20 something. And it goes down from there. And so obviously we need a little help. Have you been drinking your water? You need a little help to keep the frequency up. Okay. All right, so we were, okay, so the story of the anointing woman is found in Matthew 26, 6 through 13, and in the Gospel of John 12, 1 through 11. Okay. All right, let's see, how are we doing on time? Because I've got a lot more.
Watch us there. I guess it's quarter up.
Oh, is that right? I thought it'd been there.
It's about 7 and 3.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just
40
about
minutes.
right. Okay.
Eleanor,
Yeah.
you listed cistus. Is that what you put in the water, or was it citrus?
Citrus.
You put, okay.
Yeah,
The cistus is
sorry,
something
it was.
different. Oh, I didn't-
Let's continue going on with the oils in the life of Jesus. And so we come after the anointing, we come to Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. That's basically for Jesus a crisis of faith. Remember his disciple Peter fell asleep. Jesus asked him to pray and he nodded off. So Gethsemane, interestingly, means oil press or wine press. Okay, interesting. And so when he was crucified, I'll pass this one around. They were originally in a semblance of order here. It's okay. When the crucifixion took place, he was given a sponge that had vinegar and hyssop. It was presented to him with hyssop. Why hyssop? People have said, oh, how cruel of them to do that. It was not cruel. It was the Ladies of Mercy who had brought I think vinegar means wine that had the myrrh in it, but it was presented with hyssop. And when you strike the hyssop branch, just as in the Passover, that oil gets released, and it's the universal purifier. But the myrrh kept Jesus free from pain of suffocation. So it was relieving that pain of suffering. And they went around, these ladies would go around to all the people who were being crucified and offer them this. Okay, interesting. And they just knew this was what to do. Then Jesus was taken down from the cross. And what we find here is Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, who came to Jesus by night, took Jesus down from the cross. They wrapped, or when he was down from the cross, they wrapped his body in these cloths that were saturated with aloes, meaning sandalwood, and myrrh. Sandalwood, as soon as I find it, there. Okay, sandalwood and myrrh. Embalming. Not embalming the way we do it with chemicals, but embalming preserves the tissues helps regenerate the tissue. And Jesus was going into the tomb for 3 days. So that was what was needed. And they used $200,000 in our monetary understanding, worth $200,000 worth of aloes, sandalwood, and myrrh. It shows two things. One, that they had a reverence for Jesus, and two, they were very wealthy. So these oils were used for embalming. In Egypt, they believed that when you put oil in the tomb, that it served as a fragrance trail so that the soul could go back into the body. King Tut, that was one thing about the exhibit I was just so eager to see, that when they opened King Tut's tomb, they found 350 liters of myrrh oil. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get to see the myrrh, but it was perfectly preserved. Okay. And then I think that's all the... So those are how oils were used in the life of Jesus. Now, what I would like to do is pass around this. It's called Exodus 2. And it is a modern rendition of what was believed to be that oil, that if you did anything secular with that holy oil, that recipe of Moses that was only to be used by the priest, if you did anything, you would be stoned to death. And so when Dr. Gary Young developed this oil, Exodus 2, it has more stuff in it than the oil in the temple, so I think that was his way of avoiding guilt, getting stoned to death. And so, and this is what kept the temple pure.
Eleanor, do you think that these oils are used today in the Middle East, or use it all like they were then?
In some places, yes. Still in Oman, in southern tip of Arabia, but mostly in France. And France, in their hospitals, use lemon oil, not Lysol. Because we are subject to such toxicity in our environment, things that depress our immune system, that in addition to having to overcome the disease, we have to overcome the toxicity of the substance that we use to kill the disease. Okay. In other parts of the world, I don't know, but it is still relegated to the role of alternative when it is so not alternative. Since Jim isn't here, I can say this. He, not too long ago, a couple years ago, had a basal cell carcinoma, which is a form of skin cancer. And I just casually said, well, here, and I said a little frankincense, and I gave him what I thought would be good for that, and I was like, you gotta be kidding. And so I let it go. He set up a time for the surgery. Well, and then he came back and he said, well, I guess it couldn't hurt. I'll try it for a week. But after a week it was gone and he didn't have to have the surgery. And so, these oils are still met with skepticism, even though I have a whole recipe book full of stuff. There is so much known about them, but you cannot publish or promote anything without getting in trouble with the AMA. And that's the truth. Because the strength of the oil is the liability of the drug. When you make drugs, they have to be absolutely the same. And so, guess what? Those bacteria and those viruses, they're really smart, and they develop a resistance to you. And then the next year, it has to be stronger. Thieves, sort of. Oh, yes. Okay, thieves. I want to tell you about thieves. It got its name from grave robbers in the Middle Ages when there was a big plague in Europe. And they had tens of thousands of people, mass graves of people, and these robbers came in and they robbed the graves of gold or jewelry or whatever they found, and they did not get the plague. And so they were caught, and King James, the one who translated the Bible, he offered them leniency if they would divulge their secret. And they did. They were spice traders, and they rubbed their entire body with the oils that are in that blend called thieves. Cinnamon, clove, lemon, I think rosemary, and consequently, and today, thieves can be used, and I brought a few of the things. We have these out here in church. This is the kind of hand sanitizer. It's the only kind you want to use because the kind in the public places is toxic. This is not. Thieves supports your immune system. Okay. This is something you can put on your countertop instead of, whatever other cleaning things you use. There is toothpaste and mouthwash. Because toothpaste has toxic stuff in it that, it just, what do you call it, bioaccumulates these toxins. Mm-hmm. And I clean my whole house with it.
With these?
Yeah. You can put it in the dishwasher, you can put it in the washing machine, you can put it on your floor.
You mix it up or just a drop?
It's very concentrated. So
okay.
It's very concentrated. You can buy a bottle about this big for $84, and it'll last you for 4 months at least. You just use a little bit. So that's something. And I brought some of this too. So just so you could see, even dental floss and. Everything to do. They've saved a friend of mine from a root canal. So this is stuff that is low cost, that is in relation to pharmaceuticals and health insurance. It's low cost, it's effective, and it does the job and strengthens your immune system at the same time. So that's thieves. It's a whole family.
Do you think that it would be effective with Ebola?
I do. You know what? I've been listening to the radio, and they were talking about how already they were working on a vaccine for Ebola, and the Ebola, vaccines give you a little touch of the disease. And maybe the first round of the vaccine would keep you from getting it, but that Ebola is going to mutate because vaccines do not, they simply cannot adapt in the way that oils, it's always there. Remember, they're little drops of God light. Can God heal everything, or is Ebola something that's too hard for God? No, I'll trust it. Same with flu. I heard on the radio too that this year's flu was going to be the worst ever, and it had a different number in front of it. Put this on the bottom of your feet every single day.
Thieves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are two oils that are a must for me, and one of them is called Valor, and the other is Thieves, which are blends. Okay. Let's see.
You can buy these in a health food store?
No. Thank you for bringing that up. No. These are therapeutic grade oils. And what I mean by that is there are hundreds of these little elements in an oil that work together synergistically. And if they are overheated or too much pressure, you still have the fragrance, but it will diminish the therapeutic value. That's why you can't go to a health food store. I have some good news for you if you are interested, and that is I was given 2 coupons, if you will, because I buy a lot of oils, all right? So that if anybody wanted to become a member, that is, a member doesn't mean to be a salesperson, but it means that you can get oils wholesale. And believe me, there's a great difference. So if anybody wants it, I have a $20 coupon for a $40 membership, and you get 2 free oils with that. And then from that point on, you can buy oils wholesale.
What is the name of the place?
Young Living.
Young Living?
Young Living. I'll tell you about it later. And the reason Young Living is important is not that I'm working for Young Living, but that I want people, if they're going to use oils, I want them to have the real thing. And they have this seal of approval, certification, that not only is the plant material organic, but the process that is used. I've been to the farm, and you can see each oil has a pressure and a temperature that is just not too low so that the full value of it can come forth, and it's not too high so that it takes away from its potency. So it's a real art, and there are a number of companies that use good plant material, but they don't have control of the process, and then you keep it in dark bottles so that the sun doesn't get to it, okay, or it doesn't freeze, etc. Okay, so that's a whole family of oils.
It's interesting because, I've taken a few Bible courses, and there's Bible courses offered in many denominations and so forth, but you never hear anything about oils in those classes.
I know. The other thing that oils are, they're considered perfume. Either people use them as drugs or they treat them as perfume. And they are neither drugs, and they're a whole lot more than perfume. And this is a diffuser. I know some of you have them. I have a few with me, actually. And it's a way where if you're having a bad day, just take a whiff. If your meeting is not going well, it's like, it's a chance to do that. And of course there are diffusers for a whole room. I got one for the church, but it's kaput. I've been working on another one. We've got one in the chapel now. There is a couple of other big things, and then I'm going to quit talking. What time is it? And I want to, 10 after 3. Okay. One of them is called Raindrop. Okay, Raindrop, and I'll tell you my experience with Raindrop. I went to a training course, and we were told to teach anybody who wanted to be taught, and I'm definitely willing to do that. And it's a treatment where you drop oil along the spine. Okay. At this training course, he asked for volunteers who had scoliosis, if anybody had scoliosis. And this one woman volunteered. She had been a Vogue model, and she had 6 severe curves on her spine. And there was a chiropractor there who drew them so you could see the curves. She had special jackets to conceal that. And so there was this sequence of 6 oils, and I'm going to pass around Valor, which is called a chiropractor in a bottle. It is truly my favorite one, I have to say. It has frankincense in it.
What makes it your favorite oil over the other one?
Well, because sometimes, like, I'll give you some examples. Some things cause me to lose confidence. Okay. And this is like in a mental, emotional way, it makes you feel, even in the face of danger, secure. The Roman soldiers used to put it on in battle before they would go, not because they weren't afraid, but because it gave them courage to do that. So it has become, but for the raindrop therapy, it is the big oil, which does 80% of the work. And so after applying these 9 oils in sequence, the whole thing took about 25 minutes. On this volunteer, she lay down with some hot towels, and they remeasured her spine absolutely straight. Absolutely straight. And she was interviewed. And she said the first time in, I forget how many years that she'd had this, that she felt energy going up her spine. And so, my course was for holistic people, and there was another course immediately after for doctors. And we were told that, because we're more open to these things, that doctors were more skeptical. Obviously, who needs to be told that?
Would that be as effective also for someone who has back problems? Like
Absolutely. And the reason for the scoliosis is that viruses are now believed to hang out. It's believed that scoliosis is caused by a virus, and so these little viruses hang out along the spine. Bacteria too. And when you apply the oils, they come to the surface, and then there's all these soothing oils. And also, as I mentioned in the beginning about the diagram for the feet, these oils go on the feet as well, on the spine of the foot. And I tell you, it's a heavenly treatment. You smell like an Italian salad afterwards, but it is fine. And so when I was in Iowa, I used to teach this to a lot of people, because you really can't do it to yourself. You can do your feet, but it's pretty hard to do the spine.
You mentioned it had frankincense in it?
Yes.
So is this a blend?
Valor is a blend. It's frankincense, spruce, rosewood, and spruce, blue tansy, and rosewood.
So up till now, you've introduced oils that are not blends. Is that right? Or?
Thieves is a blend. Exodus 2 is a blend. But frankincense and myrrh are single oils.
This is Valor.
Okay. And are these traditional oils, or are they new concoctions, I guess, for lack of a better word?
Gary Young has studied the biblical oils for the past 35 years. He's walked the Bible lands. He's looked into the Nag Hammadi library, the Alexandria, to find out everything he could to replicate. A lot of these species don't grow in America. Okay.
There's a book by him?
Oh yeah, there is a book, for sure. I didn't bring his book because it weighs about 20 pounds. But I do have books. And by the way, if anyone is seriously interested in this, I give free consultations to anybody who wants them. And one other big thing I would like to alert you to is that in your packet you have a little red, in your stocking, excuse me. See that little thing with the red tab on it? No, not that.
The big one?
Yes, the big one. Okay. Oh, and this is also thieves. I gave you a thieves lozenge. Okay.
Oh, that's great.
All right. This, now, if you want to, you can drink it right now. But you don't have to. You can take it home. This, and I have lots of these, so if anybody wants a thieves brochure,
Okay.
help yourself. I have a table back there, and everything except for the diffusers, help yourself. This is called Ninja Red. This is the highest antioxidant. You know what antioxidants are, right? Antioxidants gobble up the free radicals, like Pac-Man. A free radical is an unpaired electron, and it has a kind of domino effect. So if it's missing a pair, it will go latch on to someplace else in your body, which then makes it go, all right, so this is an antioxidant. Ninja Red came from a study. Dr. Young went and traveled to the places in the world where they had longevity, and there's a wonderful legend. There's a brochure on it on the table back there, and found that in this culture, maybe it was a legend, but there was a woman who lived 300 years old. But when he went, they all lived to be 150. I mean, everyone in the culture lived to be over 100. And so he wanted to find out what it was that they ate, or what they did. First of all, they did not have anywhere near as many calories as we do. It was like for a man, and they did exercising, going up and down mountains and all this, 1,500 calories a day, which, is not a lot. And the wolfberry was the staple. It was a protein, and they had that as like their diet. And so they had the exercise in their work, and they were vegetarian. And only on feast days they would have meat, and then they would fast for 3 days after that. But so they were so thrilled, the Chinese government was so thrilled with this study that they actually gifted Dr. Young with a wolfberry tree. So they are now grown in Utah, which happens to be about the same latitude.
Wow.
And so he prepared this juice. You can have the wolfberries just dry. They're pretty good, kind of like grape nuts. But this is also supported with essential oils. It's got so many oils in it. It tastes really good. It has also pomegranate, blueberry, and raspberry, I think, all these different juices to support it. And back there on the table, here's the thing on the wolfberry. So if you drink even that little bit that I gave you, which is 2 ounces a day, you'll notice your vision improving, and you will notice a lot of other things, but high in antioxidants. That is its hallmark. So you can look at that. And this, by the way, one last thing that I will say is there is a weight loss program called SLEEK.
That's what I mean.
And it's what we all need. And I brought an example of it. It's in back there, and I'll just tell you what it is. But this is my favorite part of it. And if you would like some of this is a SLEEK bar, and I find it the most divine bar. I was thinking, I'm just going to bring this and have you have healthy refreshments. But there are cookies and stuff. Because I knew you'd feel cheated if I didn't provide refreshments. So if you want to just take a bite and pass it around, please do so. But there are tablets which are full of oils. This is like the best snack you could have, and there's a shake with some protein powder called Balance Complete. Lots of oils in everything, in all the supplements, because without the oils, the receptor sites can't integrate the nutrition that is there. So tell me if you like it. And if not, and we can just have questions, or if you want to ask me about Bible or any particular anything.
How do you know where you should drink them, or rub them, or smell them, or eat them?
Well, yeah. Okay. Most of them you can eat. There's only 3 that you cannot eat, and I have not brought any of those today. Most of them you can apply directly to the place. There are 2 other sets, and if I were going to do this systematically, I would start with the everyday oil set with a healthy medicine chest. Mm-hmm. It has everything in it. It has peppermint if you need digestion, or if you need energy, or if you need some cooling. It has lavender, which is fabulous for burns and sleep and just all kinds of things. It's not just good for one thing. That's what drugs do, but these have many purposes. It has pain away. I'll let you smell pain away. And I have a whole, where's pain away? Yeah, thanks. So you can start that around. It's got a baby cap on it. Pain away, obviously for pain. It has lemon, and that's to purify. Just put it in your water, a drop of it, or use it for wounds. There's purification, which I had going. That's a blend for those who are allergic to cats.
That's what you gave. What's her name?
Yeah. But I've also used it to help somebody get rid of mold in their house. It took 20 minutes of diffusing, purification. There's peace and calming. I'll pass peace and calming around, and it's just what it sounds like. It's a blend for peace and calming. Thieves. You already know about thieves.
What is this little bottle you gave us?
Well, it depends. If it's all smeared with purple ink, some of it is Christmas spirit, and if it's not Christmas spirit, it's evergreen essence, because I thought those were both Christmassy smells.
I think that's my favorite.
Yeah.
I have Christmas spirit.
And it was not possible to write that
smeared.
legibly.
No.
So,
Christmas spirit,
is there anything else in your...
I have a couple of questions. A friend asked me, the veins in her hands are protruding. Wanted to know if there was some oil that she could rub.
There's all because the skin is another whole area where cosmetics are so toxic, and lotions and all of that. So, yes, I mean, there is, and what you wash your hands with, what kind of stuff you put on your skin, the largest organ of your body, it can really help. I would consult with the book, and there are many things. Nothing can hurt you, and there are no negative side effects.
And then what about the friend that saved from having a root canal?
Yeah.
What did she use?
He used thieves. Not only the toothpaste and the mouthwash, but he put thieves right directly around this tooth. And clove is one of the ingredients of thieves. It is the highest on the ORAC scale, which is the antioxidant scale, of 10 million. It's the highest antioxidant that you could have. And if you put that in helichrysum on your gum, you don't even need anesthetic. It's that potent. I don't know if I'd be brave enough to try a root canal without.
I think you got the Could you tell us the 3 that you're not supposed to ingest? Because I'd like to, when you put a drop in water, they're okay.
Oh.
What'd you say? 3?
No, there's only 3 oils that you don't put on, bread or something like that.
Okay.
And the reason being is that they are so fragile. The internal molecules are so fragile that they have to be extracted in the way. Oh, you weren't in the class, but I was talking about onica. Which is an absolute, and it has to be extracted first with hexane, and then that has to be cleaned out, and then you have to go through a lot of processes. So even if it's done in the purest way, and so that would be one. Another is jasmine, and the other is and this is in the Young Living line, and the other is
the jasmine. I mean, tea, so much tea with that.
Well, we never know the source.
Right,
of
but I mean,
food.
it's not to use in eating.
Well, she meant it isn't going to hurt you, it just isn't effective. Is that what you mean?
No, it is effective, but it's not recommended that you eat it directly. Okay.
Or put it in water.
I would stick with the citrus for the water.
Okay.
or peppermint is good in water, frankincense is good in water. I put thieves in water. Thieves is great in water. Thieves is great. I'm going to get you some things over here. And you notice that there's two of your wise men here because one is headless. But
She's talking about cookies.
No, she's talking about little statues. She had 3 wise men and one of them lost its
That's
head.
his head. Yeah.
I know there's a headless
Frankincense.
Christmas cookie.
So head as well.
Christmas cookie?
Christmas cookie. Bob was,
actually, I
Jim was
should
getting-
probably have you come here, but I don't want to dismiss you until all the questions have been answered. But
Okay.
I have a display over here. Whoops.
Would cloves be okay in water? It's so strong.
Yeah, it is, but just a drop.
Just a drop, clove.
And if you,
So high enough.
and everybody does, everything else you drink is dehydrating. Soda, coffee, tea, sweet juices. If you take medicines, all of this is extremely dehydrating. And so if you're going to drink coffee, drink another cup of water, and you end up drinking about 9 cups of water a day. But you can't overdo the water, especially in the morning. But dehydration is lethal.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you say you have some more of those sticks?
Yes.
I have a friend who needs this piece at home.
Oh, it knows someone.
Here. There's many more sticks here. If you want any
Yeah.
home. Out here,
Me
I
too.
just for a
That's why I
display, I put,
Put it in the water.
frankincense and myrrh. And I know I could. This is called the gift. It has frankincense, myrrh, and balsam fir all in it. So
Ooh,
that's why it's called the gift.
Okay.
And it's heavenly.
I have a question. How long has Gary Young been around, and has he documented research on the healings that have taken place?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He has not only in the book, but the book, it's really like this big. And interestingly, you can't make specific claims. So you can, even though he's had a lot of experience in that other people, his own story is absolutely amazing. First, he was in a logging accident when he was, I think, 21, that left him paralyzed from the neck down. And he wasn't quite resigned to live his life in a wheelchair. So he set out looking at, the doctors couldn't do anything for him. And so he went looking for alternatives, and he never completely got out of pain, and he regained some of his mobility. But it wasn't until he studied with a French doctor, Jean Felnay, he was a chemist actually, and he was doing experiments with lavender. And one day something blew up in his laboratory, and he was left with a 4th-degree burn. He stuck his hand in what he thought was water. It was lavender, and it was instant. Instant, yeah. Nothing. It was already gangrene. And I saw this that I'm about to tell you, that Gary Young wanted to produce. He wanted to sell this product, but without personal experience, he won't recommend it to other people. So I was there, and he actually burned himself with, a soldering iron. And his wife was right there. He knew it worked, but his wife was right there spraying it and it's a combination of lavender and aloe vera. And I tell you, there was nothing, just a slight red mark was there. And It's amazing. So that's a must. I have it in the house for burns. You know, aloe vera is good in itself, but lavender is definitely what you want.
Is that a mix that Young Living produces?
Yeah.
You got lavender?
I don't think I brought any of it today. But as I said, you know, if you're interested in beginning to get into this, call me and I will show you a way.
What was in the gift?
Pardon?
Yeah.
What was in the gift?
And the gift you just passed around.
Frankincense. You have a sheet.
And balsam.
You have a
it's in
sheet
here.
in your
Okay.
frankincense, myrrh, balsam,
Oh, a lot
and
of things.
whole lot of things.
Jasmine.
Yeah.
Sisters.
Oh, and I didn't pass around 3 wise men. So here's 3 wise men if you want. And there's
Well, I
so
assume it's got gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
That's the gift.
yeah,
Yeah,
all in one.
all in one.
All in one. Yeah.
See if this will last.
How do you do it throughout the day? I mean, with all of them, with all having different things, and you drop in your water and then you smell a different thing, or do you?
Well, you know, you try different things and see what you like. I like lemon water in the morning. Okay, I drink lots of water in the morning. And then to start my day, valor and thieves on the bottom of my feet. And then there's also other things like if your digestion is off, you know, peppermint is good for that. And at night, lavender, peace and calming, you know, various things. If there's something specific that you want to address, then you can try different things, but nothing is going to hurt you. So if there's pain anywhere, pain away, and it's not masking the pain, it's actually lifting your awareness to the point where the pain goes away. And there's one called Relief It. They're all good. It's all good.
In
And so-
the 12 powers, the back, the lower back. is
Strength, yes.
And that's cypress.
Yes, that's right. How did you know that? Did I tell you that?
No, I studied it.
Oh, okay.
Lower
So, what would be the better for back strengthening?
Cypress, put it right on you. See, that's part of the raindrop kit.
Okay.
And so, yeah, absolutely. Cypress for lower back pain.
You just rub it on that area.
Yeah.
You have
Very-
any of that today?
I'd like a bathtub
I have to
full,
ride
please.
1,200 miles.
Hey, I have it's a little treat for you, and it's called Bad Habits Bath. So if you have bad habits of any sort, who doesn't, then you can follow the recipe there and put it in your bath water. So are we? I mean, I'm going to be here for a while, so.
Well, I did want to ask, I threw all of these on. I'm getting a little headache. You think I'm detoxing? Because I put everything on top of each other.
Oh, did I yeah.
No, I like it, but I didn't know, can you just combine it yourself? You have a little of this, and you have a little of that?
I would
No.
stick to, just drink some more water.
Yeah, I'm okay, but
Just
I
drink some
wanted it
water.
all, and I didn't know how you combine it yourself. You don't.
No, you just put one oil on and then another. You know, I never know.
Well, and some of them are already blends.
It is a little expensive.
Well, it's, you know, that's yes and no. I ask you, what is your health worth? And I say, just compare it to drugs. Just compare it. I mean, drugs are expensive. This lasts for months and months and months. You don't need very much. Remember, one drop has 4 billion trillion molecules in it. So it lasts for a long time. And it has a long shelf life. Look at King Tut, 350. I'm going to bring something in.
I wanted to
I'll
say
be
also,
back.
I've read in the history where the royalty that had these heavy oils for the
Uh-huh.
perfumes,
Uh-huh.
and hundreds of years later, if you go into those castles or those rooms, it's still there. So I was
Yeah.
thinking how strong they are for us,
It's very strong.
which I like.
And
It
it wouldn't
lasts.
be complete unless I told you about myrtle, because myrtle oil is one of the power that represents love in our system of 12 powers. And myrtle's name in Hebrew is Hadassah. It was mistranslated as Esther. And so Myrtle was a nickname. Her name was Mary Carolyn Page. But she kept that nickname, Myrtle. And when I read some of the things that myrtle was good for, it turned out it was for tuberculosis. And I thought, ooh. And so something in her, Myrtle was a mystic, but there was something in her that said that name, because you're